former U.S. National Security Advisor, Ambassador John Bolton. Thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be with you.
Thank you. So, as you follow Ambassador Bolton, the latest developments in Syria, how should we understand the clashes between SDF and HTS? And also, we're really wondering who is really the Al-Sharaa. We want to know that from the perspective of the U.S.
Well, I'm very concerned about the way things are developing in eastern Syria. I don't myself think that Al-Sharaa has proven he has renounced his terrorist background, his affiliation with what used to be called the Al-Nusra Front. He obviously has the strong support of Turkey. He wouldn't be in power in Damascus without Turkish supply and Turkish aid. So I'm very worried that there may be an Al-Sharaa agenda at work, but there may be a Turkish agenda at work. So I'm not in favor of the immediate integration of the SDF into the Syrian National Army that's being proposed. I think it's this can certainly wait, and I worry that both Turkey and Al-Sharaa may think the time is on their side, and they've got the support of the Trump White House.
Thank you, Ambassador. Another confusion on the people's mind is about the Kurds and the U.S. relations. Is the U.S. seeing the Kurds as allies in the fight against ISIS still? If yes, then why is the U.S. not involved to stop ISIS members in prisons to be freed by the Al-Sharaa's army? So do you think the Kurds have been left alone by its best allies, the U.S.? Can we say that? How do you evaluate these?
Well, I'm very worried. I don't think Trump understands the role that the SDF and Kurdish fighters played in eliminating the ISIS territorial caliphate, or that they've been playing in guarding these thousands of ISIS prisoners. In fact, the idea of taking the ISIS prisoners into Iraq it seems to me to be a step leading to saying that role for SDF no longer applies. You know, Erdogan has tried to persuade Trump to withdraw American forces from Syria for a long time. He started even before I arrived at the White House in 2018. But I mean, I personally heard several efforts by Erdogan to persuade Trump to pull all U.S. forces out and essentially abandon the SDF. It didn't happen. It didn't happen under the Biden administration. But I think Kurds are right to worry that there aren't enough people around Trump in the White House today explaining the critical role that the SDF played in the defeat of ISIS and the role it's continued to play to help stabilize significant parts of Syria and prevent both Turkish expansionism and the terrorists from coming back.
Thank you, Ambassador. Also, another issue is about Tom Barrack, which is basically now it's on the agenda of the Europe somehow. But what is the aim of the Tom Barrack in the region, especially starting from the Syria? We can see a war spreading around the Middle East now. So what are the US's plans for the Middle East right now? For long-term plans I'm talking about, and what kind of the Syria and Middle East the US wants?
Well, Trump has delegated a lot of responsibility to Barrack in his role, first as ambassador to Turkey, but also as special representative for Syria. And I think that he's the victim of what we call clientitis, that he acts like he's the ambassador for Turkish interest rather than for American interest or for the interest of our allies like the SDF. So I'm worried that although the Kurds and SDF have many friends in the United States who understand the role that they played in the defeat of ISIS, that is just something Barrack didn't experience and he's not reflecting. I don't think that at the moment he's getting a lot of oversight by the State Department, and I don't think Trump is even paying much attention. So it's a very risky period.
Yeah, so if we continue to the policies, basically, do you think the Trump's policies create stability and peace in the region, or totally opposite side?
Well, I'm afraid it may be the opposite. I think the SDF-US combination, working with Jordan, working with others, has preserved peace and stability in eastern Syria and good parts of western Iraq for a long time. That we risk having that disappear if U.S. forces pull out of Syria entirely, even if they may stay at the al-Assad base in Iraq. I think it's very important that people try and get in touch with Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. I think from his days in the Senate, he is much more likely to be aware of and understand the implications of the SDF being dissolved or folded into the Syrian National Army, and the loss of control over the ISIS prisoners and the risk of an ISIS resurgence, and the risk of Turkish expansionism, frankly. Obviously, he's busy with a lot of other matters. So this is something that Turkey and Al-Sharaa may try and take advantage of. But I think it's important to get to Rubio quickly, to work through Kurdish friends in Congress, of which there are many, to make sure they're aware of how dangerous the situation really is.
Thank you so much. So also another question, which is basically will shed a light on the millions of people's of minds, because everybody is wondering what is the next coming in the region, what kind of design will be given to the Middle East and Syria by international powers such as Britain, US, France, and Germany. They did a combined statement a few days ago as well. So will the next war conflict, let us say, will be in Iraq or Iran? Iran is on agenda right now. So is the Kurdish Arab conflict and Sunni Shia conflict at the door? Can we say that?
Well, I think there are a lot of moving pieces. I think many Western governments have moved too quickly to recognize the Al-Sharaa regime and give it legitimacy. I don't think it's really proven yet that it deserves that. But as you say, right now, the focus is on Iran and what may happen if the talks in Oman fall through. I don't see any prospect for progress myself. I'd be stunned if there were. And at that point, the attention returns to Trump and whether he will authorize military force, as he threatened against Iran if it continued to kill the protesters, which it then proceeded to do. So Trump drew a red line. The Ayatollah has crossed it, and now we'll see if Trump retaliates as promised. I think the longer objective should be the overthrow of the regime of the Ayatollahs. They've been there over 45 years. They are the principal cause of instability in the Middle East. If they were replaced by a responsible government, then there might be room for optimism. But we don't know how Trump will decide. We don't know when he'll decide. I don't think we have long to wait. But even if he does use military force against Iran, that doesn't necessarily mean he has come up with a strategic plan. It could just be, as we call it, a one and done. And I think that would certainly serve notice to the Iranian regime, but not necessarily enough to have the regime destabilized to the point where it falls.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. You can answer that one very shortly. Basically, to wrap up everything, what should the Kurds understand what's coming in the next for their future? Because they talk for the autonomous administration in the Rojava region, as well as the new design, the new shapes, basically in the Middle East. So, what is the position of the Kurds, and what is coming for them in the future? Very shortly. Also, in Turkey there is a peace process continues. So also the PKK lie down the arms as well. So some process is continuing. So where is the Kurds? What should they understand about their future?
Well, the process in Turkey continues to play out. We'll see how serious Erdogan is about it. I have my doubts. He has his own political troubles. He may feel that he needs to placate the Kurds temporarily to address his other political troubles. But I think it's important for Kurdish people to understand that this is a dangerous moment with a lot of pieces in play, and certainly with respect to the United States, the number of friends that the Kurds have is quite large, many in Congress, as I said, and I think it's important to be very active diplomatically and in terms of Kurdish Americans talking to their elected representatives, so that people know that that a lot is at stake here, and developments could move very swiftly if we're not prepared for them.
I highly appreciate your time that you spare for me.